Hey, welcome back. Here are my 5 top productivity tips for 2021. Number 1. I cannot stress this enough. A to-do list is absolutely useless. Actually, it's not useless, but there is a better tool. The better tool is the done list. Every day at the end of your workday, you write down what it is that you actually got done. Concrete steps in the right direction towards getting your bigger goals completed. What's the point of doing this then? Well, after the first week, you go over it and you review what it is that you actually managed to get done each day. This can be a little bit alarming sometimes, and you realize that actually in a week you might not really make many steps in the right direction. And it is this constant writing down of what it is that you did and then reviewing it over weeks and then months that will allow you to actually progress a lot further than just having a to-do list. A to-do list always just grows to an infinitely long number of items because there's always something to be done. The done list allows you to actually go back and review what it is that you did, work out what actions you took actually allowed you to make real progress. And that's what it is that you need to do. That's what you need to focus on. So that one thing that you do, just take 5 minutes at the end of the day to write down what it is you actually did. You might argue, well, I've got all my commits. That's all I did. And that isn't strictly true. In the world of real business, you've got 2 things that you will be assessed on. You've got your tangibles and you've got your intangibles. And those 2 halves are roughly equal, or should be equal. So your tangibles are things which you can actually point to kind of visually or physically, which you can say that you got done. Tangibles are things like, yes, if you're in tech, then that's a list of your commits, things that you push into production. Could be, your Jira workflows that you completed, this sort of thing. But more than that, it could be, you added a new UI element, something like that. Fine, that's all of your tangibles. Could be documentation, right? More important though, and the thing which is often forgotten, is your intangibles. And your intangibles are really important. Your intangibles are things like, I communicated with the other team. Before I put my changes into production, I made sure that production management were aware that the changes were going to go in and what might go wrong, and also what to do if they go wrong. It's the intangibles in terms of collaboration, working with others, and in particular, the one that they really love is sharing your knowledge with others. If you can say that you learned a new skill or maybe a new tool, and then you share that knowledge with the rest of your team, and then you made sure that the juniors in the team in particular got to spend time with you and actually see you do it, and then you help them along as well. That in particular is something that managers are really looking out for, right? Because that is saying that you're not really selfish in what it is that you're doing. Some people end up being very kind of, oh, I learned this tool, now this is going to be my thing and this is what I'm going to do forever and nobody else can touch it. This is not what we're looking for, ever. We're looking for people who learn a new skill, which might be difficult, and then they will take the junior members of the team and others and train them up to use it. It might not be your tool, it might be a common tool, but you know how to do it and they don't. And by spreading that knowledge and getting them some initial experience, you're making the entire team more productive, right? That's what they really care about. It's how you kind of multiply your skills, how you multiply your time by getting others to do or become aware of the same thing. That's what really counts. So all of those are very important intangibles that you need to write down in your to-do list every single day. So my second productivity tip, and one which follows directly on from the first, is just try to get one thing done every day. If you can get one thing done, something just concrete, a step in the right direction every day, no matter what, you will make more progress. Because often in the tech world, it's really difficult to find the right thing to do, find the right tool to use. Commit the code can be difficult sometimes. You've got to actually just make a small step in the right direction every day. That small step, again, might not be programming based. It might not be a commit. It might be, I sent an email to someone to let them know that something's going to happen. And that could be a step as well. My third productivity tip is working out what your early and easy wins are. So on a certain project or a sprint, you might work out that you can get one thing done really quickly. If you're working, for instance, on a 2-weekly sprint, it can be very important for you to get an early win in. And what do I mean by that? I mean just some initial step that you could do, and preferably a small work item that you can burn down straight away or within the first couple of days, right? This is really important because apart from anything, it fuels your enthusiasm and makes you think that you're actually making progress. It feels like you've built momentum and you're going to do more and you're going to continue that momentum. Just only 2 weeks ago, I started a new sprint and I put in a work item more or less straight away, and within 2 or 3 days, I had it completed. And it made me feel so good. That momentum that you've built, that's great. It powers you through the rest of the week and into the next week, right? Your early wins are very important for your own morale and the team morale. All right, my fourth productivity tip. This is a bit more dynamic, right? This is working out when you're in the zone. You know, you've been coding all day, trying to get things done. Maybe you haven't actually done that much, but at some point you kind of just go into the zone and you're like, okay, we're doing it. You got the beats on, you're in the right mood, nobody's distracting you, and you can just go for it. And this is really important. You've got to be able to remember and kind of recognize when you're in that zone, and you've got to really use it. You've got to use it to the max, because most programmers only get between 60 and 90 minutes a day where they actually do solid programming work, right? So once you're in the zone, that is your most important part of the day. When you're in the zone, recognize that you're in the zone, and then don't go off and do other things. You know, it's very tempting, even when you're in the zone, to then go, okay, I'm going to go make a cup of tea, I'm going to check my Twitter, and I'm going to watch this YouTube video. Don't do that. And you can't do that. You kind of just got to be focused. And if you power through that time when you're like being really productive and not being disturbed from your colleagues, this makes the biggest difference. And that could contribute to one of your concrete steps that you manage to get done that day. If you can do that every day, then over the course of the week, you're going to have at least 5 hours of solid programming work where you really got something done. So much of our time as programmers is spent doing other stuff which isn't even programming, right? So when you're actually doing it, you've got to really focus on it. My fifth productivity tip. There's only 2 types of people in this world. There are people who see a work item come in straight away, or an email, and they'll deal with it straight away. And then there's almost everybody else who will put that work item in the back of their mind and say they'll come back to it later. You have to be one of those people who puts aside their worries and just gets on and does it straight away. It's actually quite difficult. I'm one of those people who wants to kind of leave it. But over time, I've managed to train myself to try and deal with stuff straight away. And it really counts. You'll find that those initial problems which come in, maybe it's a support issue on email, if you deal with them straight away, it's much better because you're limiting the amount of time and the impact that it can have. And from the point of view of a manager, when they're looking at who's kind of picking up issues, who's dealing with things straight away, gets noticed pretty quickly. If you respond to an email within 10 minutes and you're looking at it and trying to deal with it, that looks really good. So those are my 5 productivity tips. Why does it matter so much? Well, at the end of the year, you've got to be able to go over the things it is that you did. You've got to be able to review yourself properly. And you can only do that if you've got an excellent record of what it is that you actually did. Remember both the tangibles and the intangibles. Typically, people kind of think, well, I'm working on this massive project, and then at the end of the year, when they need to write about what it is that they actually did, they then forget all the details and how much of a struggle it was and who they were working with and what they had to do, right? Going over that list is very important. And that means that at the end of the year, your manager is seeing a true picture of all the effort that you actually went to try and get those things done. So I hope that helps. Let me know what you think in the comments.